Okay, welcome back to Shmuel Bet. We left off last week when Avner ben Ner, who was the chief of staff of Shaul's army, he was the controller of King Ishbosheth, who was really just a puppet king. He had been chased by Asahel, who was the brother of, who was Asahel the brother of?
Yoav.
Yes, correct, Peter. He was a brother of Yoav, who was the general of David's army. So we're here talking about civil war. We're talking about David, who is, well, actually, David didn't know anything about this. Yoav, who is the general, let's call it, of the Judean army, against Avner, who is in charge of the Israelite army. And if you remember, we had this sort of gladiator sport business where 12 of each side fought one another, and it was a bloody draw. All 24 of them died, and then they had a fight. It was a free-for-all, and Asahel chased Avner. Avner, who was much bigger and stronger, tries to talk Asahel down and tries to persuade him to give over and not attack him. And Asahel's not interested in standing down. Avner then kills Asahel with a backhander using the back end of his spear with such force that it goes all the way through Asahel, and Asahel drops down dead. That's where we left it last time. So we are now, I'm going to put you on the text on the screen for you. We're in chapter 2 of Shmuel Bet, and we are on verse. Say that again, Hannah.
No, sorry, I was talking to somebody here.
All right, I'll put you on mute, and you can carry on talking. We're on chapter 2, verse 24. Jeffrey, please.
Joab and Abishai chased after Avner. The sun was setting as they reached Ammah Hill, which is alongside Gir, on the way to the wilderness of Gibeon. The children of Benjamin.
Stop there. Now then, that sounds a very innocent pasuk, no? Nothing exciting about that pasuk. Yoav and Avishai pursued Avner. The sun set when they came to this place. Why are we being told what time of day it is? What difference does it make?
Well, it's much easier to hide in the dark.
All right, okay, I'll accept that. Why are we being told what time of day it is at this particular place? Where is this particular place?
Well, it's on top of a hill overlooking the desert.
Okay, and whereabouts? Which desert is this, Jeffrey?
Well,
Gibeon.
It says here, wilderness of Gibeon, but I've never heard of that one before.
Perfect, so you certainly have.
The sound has gone. The sound has gone.
The sound has gone. You can't hear me?
No.
Okay, well, I'll have to wait again until the stupid internet settles down and you can hear me. Can you hear me yet?
It's getting better, but it's not still. It's still a bit tinny.
I can hear you perfectly.
No, that's perfect.
Right. Okay. So why are we being told that the sun set in this place called Givon?
Okay, I think what happens is the sun sets in the west and the desert's obviously in the east.
Okay, that may well be true, but that isn't why we're being told that here. what happened? It's another time
Shemesh
with the,
Givon Dom.
Yeah, with Joshua.
yes.
Dom.
Shemesh Begivon
Shemesh
Dom. Who said
Begivon
that? I
Dom.
think that was Billy. Was that Billy?
Yep, was.
We can't see you. Put your camera on, Billy. We'd like to see you.
Okay, let me find that.
There you go. Right.
Okay.
So Billy is correct. Shemesh Begivon Dom. What does that mean?
The sun
Sun
stood
in Givon,
still.
stop. Sun
The
in
sun
Givon,
stood still in Givon. Remember that
Yeah.
story in
Yeah.
the book of Joshua?
Yeah.
We all know that story from our youth, don't we?
Yeah.
Where Joshua said, "Let the sun stand still," and that was in this place called Givon. Okay, and of course Hashem made this major miracle that the sun stood still in Givon, and here we have the opposite. And I think that there is a hint here in the author, by the author of Shmuel Bet, to what went on in this book of Joshua. In the book of Joshua, the sun stood still at Givon and did not set in order that Joshua could do what?
Finish the job.
Finish the job. Because it was a battle that was a righteous battle, and that Hashem wanted the Bnei Israel to be successful in. And so, as it were, Joshua said, "Give me a few more hours and I'll finish the job." And Hashem, as it were, said, "Okay," and he made the sun stand still in Givon. Here we're being told the opposite.
it was an eclipse. Johnny, it was an eclipse.
It was an eclipse. Very nice. Okay. Just happened to be an eclipse just right at that particular time. It's the opposite of it. And it was actually the opposite of an eclipse, Philip, because if it was an eclipse, then the sun would not be bright. It would be dark. So it was not an eclipse.
If it goes in front, if the sun goes in front of the moon, then it's also an eclipse. You know that?
What's that got to do with the sun standing still?
That the sun stood still in front of the moon. Maybe.
No, maybe not. So anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's talk about what's really going on here. Givon, the sun stands still in Givon. If you remember when we learned this, actually, just as an aside, if you remember, if you want to go back and find the shiur, I'll see if I can find it later on and I'll post it on one of the groups. We spoke about an amazing Ralbag. The Ralbag was a 14th century French astronomer who didn't believe this whole business of the sun standing still at all. He couldn't handle it because he was an astronomer. And he had a whole different explanation as to this, which is fascinating. And we talked about it when we learned it a few years ago. I'll see if I can find the shiur and I'll post it up. But anyway, the sun stood still in Givon because it was a righteous battle, and Hashem was in favor of this battle to be completed and for them to win. Okay? Here, I think the author of Shmuel Bet is telling us that this was the opposite. The sun did not stand still in Givon. The sun set. The opposite. And the reason that the sun set here is in effect to contrast what went on in the time of Joshua when this was a righteous battle. And this is, as it were, the scripture's way of telling us, hinting to us, that this was a bad business. Yoav and Avishai pursuing Avner is a bad business. It's not Yehoshua fighting the enemy. This is the brother against brother. It's civil war. It's a bad business. The sun set in contrast to Joshua's time when the sun stood still in this place. That is why I think we're being told this seemingly irrelevant piece of information, that the sun set when they came to this place. Not only is it irrelevant that the sun set, the place is irrelevant unless you show it some relevance. And I think, I've not read this anywhere, by the way, so you're fully entitled to agree with my view. I think that this is a scriptural hint at the bad business of civil war. Okay, so let's go on. The sons of, go ahead, Jeffrey, read on for us, verse 25.
The children of Benjamin assembled themselves behind Avner and became a single group, and they stood atop the hill. Avner then called out to Joab and said, "Must the sword consume forever? Do you not know that there will be a bitter ending to this? How long will you not tell the people to turn back from after their brethren?"
Stop there. So what's going on here? What's Avner saying?
I'm still back at the comment beforehand. Can I say
Go on. Yeah.
In reference to your understanding, what would back that up was that very often in the Torah, darkness or the sun setting brings in a time of a bad time. Like the Galut is considered a time of darkness. When you have no light, the sun setting, it's ushering in a negative period.
Correct. And we're going to come to that very shortly, Hannah. So thank you for reminding me of that. We're going to come to it in a minute. Yes, Philip.
I don't understand how come that the text that I'm reading is substantially different from the text that Jeff is reading. Which are the two versions? What version is on the screen? And what version
on the screen is the Chabad version, and Jeffrey is reading
Art
Scroll.
Art Scroll. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Very
so
substantially different.
Okay, read it again for us, Jeffrey, please. Verse 25 and 6.
The children of Benjamin assembled themselves behind Avner and became a single group, and they stood atop a hill. Avner then called out to Joab and said, "Must the sword consume forever? Do you not know that there will be a bitter ending to this? How long will you not tell the people to turn back from after their brethren?"
Okay, so the meaning of the two translations is exactly the same. It's just a slight different wording. What's Avner saying here? What?
There should be an end to the violence between brothers.
Yes, there should be. What he's saying? Come on, Yoav, pack it in. Why are we fighting here? There'll be no. Do you not know that this will be a bitter end? This is not going to end well. We're fighting one another. Will the sword forever consume? Do we have to fight? Avner is trying to call a ceasefire. Right? Avner's trying to bring an end to this sorry situation where the brother is killing brother. Until when will you not say to the people to return from after their brothers? Why won't you call off your troops? He's saying. Let's pack it in. And so what does Yoav say? Verse 27, Jeffrey.
Joab then said, "As God lives, had you not forgotten first, already in the morning every one of the people would have gone back from going after his brother." So
Could you just read that again?
Joab then said, "As God lives, had you not spoken, in brackets first, already in the morning every one of the people would have gone back from going after his brother."
Right. The first time you read that, you didn't say the word spoken, which didn't make sense. That's why I asked you to read it again. But so that's fine. So he says, and so what's Yoav saying back to Avner? It's like two children in a kindergarten here. What does Yoav say back to Avner?
So Joab blew the shofar.
No, wait, Jeffrey, wait. What is Yoav saying in verse 27 then? He's saying, you started it. You started this, Avner. If you hadn't said in the morning, let's have a fight between these 12 verses 12, then everybody would have gone away and we wouldn't have had any of this. So Avner starts and says to Yoav, pack it in. Yoav says, well, you started it, mate. It's like two children. And the good thing is that at least although they blamed one another, and as we said last week, they were both to blame because Avner went all the way from Machanaim. Remember where Machanaim is? Let me show you where Machanaim is. Again, just to remind you, let me show you where Machanaim is. There is Machanaim over here. Can you see? And where have they gone? They've gone to Givon, all the way over here. And Givon is on the border, or at least close to the border, of the territory of Yehuda. So that was a very provocative act of Avner. Yoav, on the other hand, marched his way from Hebron north to Givon, over the border, into the territory of Benjamin. So both Yoav and Avner were posturing and being provocative to one another. So that was the truth of the matter. So let's go back to the text. Can you see the text on the screen? Yeah, okay. So Avner says to Yoav, come on, pack it in. This is not going to end well. And Yoav said, well, you started it. If you hadn't started the whole business, none of this would have happened. But at least
we're looking at it as if they're equal. Like, excuse my comparison, but the Hamas and the IDF, it's not exactly the same. Yoav is representing God's anointed, David, who is to be the king after Solomon, and Avner is representing a usurper. He's trying to take the throne away from David. And
okay,
so
first of all,
they're not actually on an equal footing.
Okay, first of all, that's not factually correct, because although David was anointed, he was anointed as the king of Yehuda. Saul was still the king of Israel until his death, and until David united the kingdom sometime after this, Saul's progeny was entitled to rule in his place. Ishbosheth was entitled to rule in Saul's place until the two kingdoms came together. Right? We've got a split in the kingdom.
Not according to Shmuel. Shmuel says to him, God says to Saul, he says, God has replaced you with the one who will come after you.
Okay, but that was a private discussion with Shaul and Shmuel. David had not yet been anointed as the king of all Israel, and that doesn't happen for another 7 years. And so Ishbosheth was entitled to rule as the son of Shaul.
Where's the basis for that?
Well, you're looking at it from the position of knowledge after the event here.
No, I'm looking at it from what Shmuel has prophesied. Shmuel has told Saul in no uncertain terms that David will take over from him.
First of all, he never mentioned David by name, and secondly, who's to say that Shaul passed that information that Shmuel told him in private onto his sons?
He's not going to have done that.
No. Jonathan has been killed. The other brother, whose name escapes me, has been killed. Ishbosheth is the one that's left.
Jonathan knew that David
Jonathan's dead. Jonathan's
But
dead.
he knew. But he knew.
But he didn't
Yeah,
know
but-
from Shaul.
He knew that David was to become king.
So what? It doesn't mean that Ishbosheth knew. You're looking at it from the position of knowledge of hindsight. With hindsight, we know that. But at this point, and that's why it's important to learn in contemporaneously here, David did not succeed in becoming the king of all Israel for 7 years. 7 years he reigned in Hebron as the king of Yehuda. Only then did he become the king of all Israel. And at this point, there is this battle between Israel and Yehuda. And so it's going on. But Yoav, at least at this point, does the right thing. Verse 28, Jeffrey.
So Joab blew the shofar, and all the people halted, no longer chasing after, in brackets, their fellow Israelites, and they did not continue to fight. Avner and his men traveled through the Arava that entire night. They crossed the Jordan and went through the entire Bithron and came to Machanaim.
Stop there, Jeff. So, okay, the two generals, Avner and Yoav, have spoken. Avner has said, come on, let's pack this in. Why are we fighting here? And Yoav says, well, it's your fault because you started it. But then Yoav takes on board what Avner has said. He blows the shofar, calls a halt to the fighting, and they go back to their respective places. And again, look at the Tanakh is telling us, he could have just said, and Avner went back to his place. Read 29 again for us, Jeffrey.
Avner and his men traveled through the Arava that entire night. They crossed the Jordan and went through the entire Bithron and came to Machanaim.
That verse gives you the impression that that is a long journey, right?
It was a long journey, and they
Yeah,
were going
look.
east, and they were outside, the land of of Benjamin.
Correct. So it's telling you that they went all the way back, and it's giving you the impression that it was a long way, which it was a long way, which confirms what we were saying earlier, that when they came the other way, that was an act of provocation. They'd come a long way to poke Yoav, right on the border. They'd come all the way down here to the border of Yehuda. All the way from Machanaim. And on the way back, they had to trudge back. Right, let's have a look. Oh, where are we? Need to go back to this text again. There we go.
Johnny, not only did they have to trudge back, they had to go uphill a lot, because to get to Machanaim, which was on much higher ground than the Jordan Valley, it's exhausting.
It was a tough game.
You're breaking up again.
Verse 30, right? You can't hear me, Jeffrey. You hear me?
No.
Jeffrey, read verse 30.
Read verse 30. Joab thus withdrew from pursuing Avner and gathered together all the people. There were missing from David's subjects 19 men and Asahel. But David's subjects had slain many of Benjamin and of Avner's men. 360 men died. They carried Asahel and buried him in his father's burial plot in Bethlehem. Joab and his men walked all night, and lights broke upon them at Hebron.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of the chapter here. Avner trudges all the way back to Machanaim. Let's just get the map up again. This battle took place over here, the border of Benjamin and Judah, just about where the bottom end of the B of Benjamin is on that map. Avner's men trudged all the way back up here, north east, crossed the Jordan and went back to Machanaim, and Yoav's men went south to Hebron. Now, let's go back to Hannah's point, which is about the idea that night is often used in Tanakh as an simile for darkness, for a bad period of time, and light, on the other hand, is used in Tanakh as a dawn, the dawn of a new era, as positivity. Night is negative, day is positive. And let's go back again. We're talking in private here, not in public, but let's go back to Shmuel Aleph, to we keep returning to this, but it's important, to the Witch of Endor, the story of the Witch of Endor. It's in Shmuel Aleph, and it's in chapter 28. It's on the screen there for you, Jeffrey, if you'd like to read it.
And Saul disguised himself and donned other garments, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, divine now for me with necromancy, and conjure up for me whom I shall tell you.
Okay, so we're told there that he went by night. Now, the simple pshat of that is that he was in disguise, and obviously if he doesn't want to be seen, then he's going to go at night. Simple pshat is that was just part of his disguise, is to go at night so he wouldn't be found out. But we've got the idea that this is all a bit shady. This whole business is a bit shady. He's going to a witch, he's going at night. I mean, you know, it almost sounds Shakespearean, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
And let's just go a bit further down to verse 20, Jeffrey, on the screen there.
And Saul hastened and fell his full length to the ground, and he was very frightened because of Samuel's words. Furthermore, he had no strength, for he had not eaten bread all that day and all that night.
Okay, we've got a mention of day and night there. And then let's go to verse 25, the end of this story.
And she set it before Saul and before his servants, and they ate. And they rose and went away on that night.
Night again. This whole story is, as I said, it's almost Shakespearean in its imagery. There's cloaks, there's witches, there's nighttime. It's all very dark. And this represents the demise of Shaul's kingdom here. And it ends, this basically is the end of Shaul's kingdom, this prediction by Shmuel that this is all going to end tomorrow, and Shaul and his servants trudge away during the night. If we go back to our chapter, look at Avner. Look what Avner does. Verse 29 again, Jeffrey, please.
Avner and his men travelled through the Arabah that entire night. They crossed the Jordan and went through the entire Bithron and came to Machanaim.
Again, mention of the night. It's all very negative and dark. Contrast that to Yoav. Yoav also goes through the night and he comes to Hebron. Verse 32, Jeffrey.
They carried Asahel and buried him in his father's burial plot in Bethlehem. Joab and his men walked all night, and light broke upon them at Hebron.
There's the difference. There's the difference. Light broke upon them in Hebron. Vayaor, I think it is. I can't really see the thing. Vayaor, I think it is. Vayaor lahem bechevron. Okay, and light broke upon them in Hebron. What does that give you an impression of? This is a new dawn, right? Light breaks, it's dawn. This is the dawn of a new era. With Avner, who is representing the house of Shaul at this point, It's all night. There is no dawn. It doesn't say he came to Machanaim at dawn. There's no mention of dawn. Shaul's a star, if you like, is on the wane. David's star is on the ascendancy. And you see that here in the language, and the light broke upon them in Hebron. This is now the beginning of the chapter of David's ascendancy. We're going to see how over the next 7 years, I hope it won't take us 7 years to do the next couple of chapters, but you never know the way we go. We're going to see how David tries very hard to combine the two kingdoms, to unify the people, and eventually is successful, and he becomes David Melech Yisrael. At the moment, he's David Melech Yehuda, but eventually he will become David Melech Yisrael, and his reign of the time where he was the king of a unified Israel was actually the peak of our history until today. Okay, that was the time when we were completely unified as 12 tribes. Didn't last very long, because by the time David died and Shlomo took over, Shlomo managed to dissipate quite a lot of David's goodwill pretty quickly by taxing the people heavily. And by the time Shlomo's reign came to an end, it was all over. There was I was going to say a permanent split, but let's hope it wasn't permanent. There was a very, very long-term split in the people. Here, the split, 7 years it took David. We are, what are we, 3,000 years on from the split after Shlomo HaMelech's reign, and we're still not fully unified. We're not even unified in Yehuda, never mind with all the 12 tribes. So this was, we're going to see now the beginning of the reign of David HaMelech, and the rest of Shmuel Bet is really talking about the reign of David HaMelech, and you'll see that Shaul's kingdom is now on the way out, and the prophecy that Shmuel gave to Shaul is about to be fulfilled in the next few chapters. So we can move on now into the next chapter, and we're going to see something really interesting in this chapter now. Let's go on to chapter 3. Again, we had this once before, where the chapters are rather peculiarly sorted, because this first verse might have been better at the end of the last chapter. Let's just read that first verse.
The war was long between the house of Saul and the house of David. David grew continuously stronger, while the house of Saul grew continuously weaker.
Okay, now bearing in mind what we said about the last verse in chapter 2, where the light broke upon them in Hebron, David's getting stronger, Saul's getting weaker. That pasuk that we've just read, David kept growing stronger while the house of Saul were continuously growing weaker. Maybe that would have been better at the end of the last chapter, and then you begin your next chapter at verse 2. It isn't, it's there. I don't think it really matters. The chapters, of course, were not necessarily Jewish chapters, so we don't have to get too excited about it. But it just strikes me that that might have been a better place to have put it. Now, let's just go and read the next few psukim, 2 to 5, which on the face of it, you might think is a little bit superfluous and irrelevant, but it isn't.
Absolutely not. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon, born to Ahinoam of Jezreel. His second son was Chileab, born to Abigail, the former wife of Nabal the Carmelite.
Excuse me 1 second, Jeffrey. does the word former appear in brackets?
It does. I'm sorry.
I thought it might, because it does not appear in the Hebrew, and as you'll see on the screen, it doesn't appear in our translation either. Now that's very, very relevant, and we're going to come to that in some detail in a moment. We're going to come to that in some detail in a moment. So yes, read that again with the information that it's in brackets, please.
Okay. The former wife. Oh, wait a minute. His second son was Chiliab, born to Abigail, the former wife of Nabal the Carmelite. The third was Absalom, the son of Maacah, daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth was Adoniah, the son of Haggit. The fifth was Shephatiah, the son of Abital. The sixth was Itriam, born to Eglah, David's main wife. These were born to David in Hebron.
Okay, right. So we've got 6 sons of David. Who do we not have for a start?
Shlomo.
Shlomo. Why not?
He hasn't been born yet.
Not been
He
born yet.
hasn't been born yet. Correct. Correct. He's not been born yet. So, is it surprising to you, therefore, that eventually Shlomo will succeed David? He certainly wasn't first in line to the throne, was he?
No.
But it was a promise that David made to Bathsheba.
Well, Bathsheba hasn't even come on the scene yet.
No, but in Kings 1, the book opens with David on his deathbed, and Bathsheba comes to him with Nathan, and he says, "I will fulfill my promise, and Shlomo will sit on the throne after me."
Too many spoilers, Hannah. Hannah, spoilers. We're not up to there yet. We've got the whole of Shmuel Bet yet to get through before we get to Malachim Aleph.
But Shlomo was king after him because David made a promise.
Okay, so that may well be the case, but that doesn't answer my question. My question was, is it not surprising that Shlomo was the king?
Yes.
Or I'll alter the question. Is it not surprising that David made that promise when he's got so many older children? It's hardly surprising that these older sons were not chuffed about that fact later on. So why are we being told that there are these sons? Because it's very important for us to know when we come later on to see what happened. We know that Adoniah, I'll give you another spoiler. Adoniah tries to usurp the throne. Absalom
first.
Yeah. Absalom rebels against his father. It's all bad news, all of this this fighting about the throne. Anyway, we've got these 6 sons.
We have a precedent, though, of picking the younger one to be the leader, and that Yaakov picked Yosef.
Yosef wasn't the king. Yosef was not the tribe of kingship. Yehuda was the tribe of kingship. And the reason that Yehuda was the tribe of kingship was that Reuven screwed up, pardon the pun, by going with his father's wife. Shimon and Levi messed up by being too violent against Shechem. And so Yehuda was next in line. If you look at the brachas that Yaakov gives in Vayechi, you see it very clearly that Reuven is rejected. Shimon and Levi, Achim Haim, they are brothers in arms. They're rejected. Yehuda is given the kingship. Yosef is given the Bechorah. He's given the double portion with Ephraim and Manasseh, but he's not given the prize of leadership. That goes to Yehuda. Okay, I want to look at these sons' names because it's very interesting. Now, there is another place in Tanakh where the sons of David are listed. Where do you think that might be?
Chronicles.
Chronicles, correct. Divrei Hayamim, Chronicles. That's where all these things are mentioned. Let's just have a look. There we are on the screen for you. Chronicles 1, Divrei Hayamim, chapter 3, tells us very clearly who they were. Jeffrey, on the screen for you, please read verses 1 to 4.
And these were the sons of David who were born to him in Hebron. The firstborn, Amnon, to Ahinoam the Jezreelitess. The second, Daniel, to Abigail the Carmelitess. The third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, daughter of Talmai, the king of Geshur. The fourth, Adoniah, the son of Haggit. The fifth, Shephatiah, to Avital. The sixth, Ithream, to Eglah, his wife.
Next verse.
Oh, sorry, 6 were born to him in Hebron, and he resigned there.
No, he reigned.
And he reigned there. Sorry, he reigned there 7 years and 6 months, and 33 years he reigned in Jerusalem.
Okay, so what do you notice about the list of sons in Divrei Hayamim versus the sons in Shmuel Bet? Yes, Paul.
Not called Daniel in the first one.
Who said something there?
No, the second son is not called Daniel in the first list.
Right, correct. He's changed his name.
Yeah.
The second son in Shmuel Bet was Chilav.
Yeah.
Right? And suddenly, in Divrei Hayamim, his name is Daniel. What's going on? Something else you might notice. How is this second son described in Shmuel Bet without Jeffrey's brackets, which is an addition by Art Scroll? How is he described? He's described as Chilav,
Abigail, who's married to someone else.
the wife of Naval. Correct. He's married to somebody else.
Right,
Now then, Jeffrey inserted the word former wife. Why do you think that was put in there?
to make it respectable.
Correct, to make it respectable. Now, Divrei Hayamim makes it even more acceptable by omitting the fact that Abigail was the wife of Naval. By the time we get to Divrei Hayamim, Abigail is only described as being a Carmelitess, right? The wife of Naval, that's already gone.
Sound is gone.
Okay, I'll wait a second until it comes back again. Tell me if you can hear me again, please.
Not
Hear
yet.
me now? No? Okay. I can't do anything about it until it comes back on its own. No good?
Not yet.
No?
No.
Would the second son be classed as a mamzer?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would the second son be classed as a mamzer? No. Why not?
Well, David appears to be married to a lot of women at the time, and he has one with another married woman.
Yeah, but who's he married? Who was she married to?
She was married.
She was married to Naval.
Yeah, the Carmelite.
Okay, now, what happened to that Naval?
He died.
was killed.
No, he died.
He died.
He died by the hand of Hashem. He had a heart attack, remember?
Oh, right, yeah.
And then David married Abigail after. So she was a widow when David married her.
Okay.
Which makes her son legitimate.
Yeah.
Okay. Why was his name changed from either from Daniel to Chilav or Chilav to Daniel? Let's have a look and go back to why did I get this one up? What's this one about? Oh yes, I remember why I got that one up. I'll come back to that. Let's go back to the story of Naval, shall we? Here on the screen is the beginning of the story of Naval. Remember the story of Naval? He was the one that David did some protection work for him and they wouldn't pay him. And so David wanted to attack him. And Abigail, his wife, managed to call him off. And she was a very wonderful woman. Naval has a heart attack. David marries Abigail. But how is Naval described? Verse 3, Jeffrey.
But the man was hard and of evil deeds, and he was a Calebite.
Okay. He was hard and he was an evil deed and he was a Calebite. What is the word in Hebrew there? Chalvi. Chalbi. Okay, he was, and what did we say? He was a Calebite. What did that mean?
Well, he was from
He was from Kalev. He was from Kalev. Kalev ben Yefuneh, who was a
he was one of the spies.
He was the one of the two who with Yehoshua who refused to accept the other spies. What do you call
Correct.
it?
Bad report.
Bad mouthing the land.
Correct.
So he was a leader.
So that's how we refer to him as a Calebite. Now let's go back and have a look at what this chap is called. This second son is called Chilav. It's the same word. There is a suggestion. There is a suggestion that this fellow Chilav was not David's son at all. And that when David married Abigail, she was already pregnant from Naval. And that this son that was born to Abigail was actually not David's son at all. That he was the son of Naval. And he was given the name Chilav because actually he wasn't David's son. He was a Calebite because he was the son of Naval, who is described as Colby. So that is one second, Paul. That's one explanation given for the name change. That actually his real name, given name, was Daniel. But people called him disparagingly. Instead of calling him Daniel, they called him Chilav because they were saying, you're not even David's son. You are a Calebite. You're the son of Naval. That's one explanation. Yes, Paul?
Aren't women prohibited from remarrying after their husband dies for more than a period just to destroy that possibility?
90 days, yes, that is the halacha. But maybe she didn't show. Maybe she was a small pregnancy. I don't know. But that is the suggestion. It's only one suggestion, mind you, because there are 3 different suggestions. Now, what's really interesting is if you go on, which we will, please God, and you look in what happens at the end of David's life, or towards the end of David's life, there is an attempt to take the throne by Amnon, by Avshalom, and by Adoniah. Sons number 1, 3, and 4. There is no attempt by Chilav, or call him Daniel if you want. There is no attempt by him to take the throne. That's interesting, isn't it? Now, if it was thought, if it was accepted, if it was even mooted that Chilav was actually not David's son, then that would explain why he never put up an attempt to take the throne, because he wasn't a son of David. Really interesting. So the suggestion is that Chilav was not the son of David, and that he was really the son of Naval. Now, the another explanation is this: that people were saying it and they called him Chilav, but really his name was Daniel, and really he was the son of David. And actually, he looked very like David. He was given, a miracle occurred, as it were, and he was given the exact appearance of David. He looked the double of David. And Chilav does not mean from the tribe of Caleb, the family of Caleb. What it means is
La'av.
Like
the father, yeah.
Like the father, or Kol Av, all of his father, looking like his father. This is one of the explanations, and the opposite explanation of what I've just told you. They say, no, he absolutely was the son of David, and because there were scoffers that said he was the son of Naval, he was called Kilaav because he had the exact appearance of David. Now, there's a precedence for that.
Can I ask, when you say that there are these suggestions, or by whom? Where are you taking this from?
Okay, so what I've just told you about Kol Av, Kulo Av, that is from the Medrash Tanchuma. Okay, the first possibility that I gave you, that he was actually Naval's father, comes from Reb Yaakov Medan, who was Rosh Yeshiva of the Gush, and there is a third explanation that the reason that Kil'av did not take part in the battle for succession after David was because he was a great Talmid Chacham. He was a big tzaddik, and he was Kil'av because he was Maklim, the same word as Maklim, Mephibosheth in Halacha. Mephibosheth was another son, and he was higher than him in Halacha, and he was a great person, and because he was a great person, he didn't sully himself with the battle in succession. And that comes from the Gemara in Talmud Bavli Brachot 4a. So you have three different approaches. Chil'av was a great tzaddik and didn't involve himself in the succession. He was the exact copy of his father, Kulo Av, all like his father, Medrash Tanchuma. Rav Madan says he was actually the son of Naval, and Chil'av is a dirty nickname to say that he was a Kalbi and wasn't son of David. Now, go back to the second one, where he looked like his father. We have precedence for that in the Torah. Where do we have precedence for that in the Torah? Anyone? David's going to be able to tell me, I'm sure. David?
Well, it's a midrash.
It's a Rashi. It's a Rashi.
Based on a midrash.
Based on a midrash, yes. Come on, where is it?
Toledot.
Toledot. Yes, you're right, Billy. There it is. I couldn't remember why I'd got this up until I looked at it. There it is on the screen for you. Beginning of Toledot. Jeffrey, if you could read verse 19 for us.
And these are the generations of Isaac, the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac.
Stop there. So we've got a superfluosity there. Eile Toldot Yitzchak ben Abraham. Isaac, the son of Abraham. And then it says Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Well, if Yitzchak was ben Abraham, why do we need to be told Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak? That's obvious, isn't it?
Because, yeah.
Famous Rashi. Can you see the Rashi? It's on the screen. It might be a bit small.
Yitzchak was the double of Abraham.
Correct. Yeah. Let's have a look at the Rashi. I'll read it because it's probably a bit small for you to read. It says here...
Abraham begot Isaac. Only after the Holy One, blessed be he, named him Abraham, did he beget Isaac. Another explanation. Since Scripture wrote Isaac the son of Abram, it had to say Abraham begot Isaac, because the scorners of the generation were saying that Sarah had conceived him from Abimelech, for she had lived with Abram for many years and had not conceived from him. What did the Holy One, blessed be he, do? He shaped the features of Isaac's face to resemble Abraham's, and everyone attested that Abraham had begotten Isaac. This is the meaning of what is written here, Isaac the son of Abram, because here is the proof that Abraham begot Isaac.
Okay, so as you all correctly said, Yitzchak looked the double of Abraham in order that the scoffers would not say that he was the son of Avimelech, because of course Sarah had been taken by Avimelech. Now, same thing, if you go along, and that was Medrash Tanchuma as well, by the way, Lydia. So this explanation that Kulo Av, which was Medrash Tanchuma, is consistent with this idea of Yitzchak and Abraham. Kil Av looked like David, so that the scoffers would not say that she had actually conceived him from Naval rather than from David. A very interesting little aside there with the different sons of David. Now then, what else have we got?
Johnny, if you accept that, Johnny, if you accept that, then it doesn't give a reason why he didn't seek to have the throne. You see, when he wasn't David's son, you can understand he was.
Yeah. So then you have to go to the explanation in Brachot to say that he was above it all. He was a big tzaddik, and he was above it all. He wasn't going to sully himself with battling for the succession. That's what the Gemara says in Brachot. And that's why he didn't get involved, because he was a big tzaddik, and all the others were shot him, and he didn't want to get involved with them. Okay, we're going to stop there because we're out of time.
Johnny,
yes, David.
Just a very, very, very quick one. I remember this from years ago. In the most famous whitewashing passage in the whole of the Gemara, the people that stated to have sinned and that they whitewashed that they didn't sin, like David and Bathsheba. It lists 4 people that never sinned in their life. One of them is Kilav.
Correct. So one of them is Kilav. Can you remember who the others are? Binyamin is one.
Correct.
I read this somewhere the other day. I can't remember who the other two were.
Yeah, the other 2 are very, very difficult to get. They're both.
I did read it, but I can't remember.
Both fathers of famous personalities.
Was Yishai one?
Yes.
Yitro?
No, Yishai.
Oh.
You're close with Yitro.
Who's the 4th?
Amram.
Okay. So Chilav was one of these people that didn't sin,
which is why he didn't rebel against his father. He was too busy sitting learning Torah, as that Gemara he just quoted said.
Yeah, correct. So that's the Gemara in Brachos 4a. Right. So that was very interesting. What have we done today? We've seen how Avner and Yoav eventually came to their senses after 380 people had died needlessly. And they came to their senses and called it off. They trudged back to their respective places. Avner in the night with the descent of Shaul's star. Hebron sees the dawn of David's star rising, and we see the 6 sons of David born in Hebron. And we saw how the name of Chilav or Daniel was changed, and we gave a few different reasons why that might be. And we also saw a precedent from Bereshit, from Toldot, that Yitzchak looked like Abraham, to give that some consistency to the Medrash Tanchuma. What we're going to look at next time is another interesting thing where we've got a precedent from Sefer Bereshit, and we're going to see that Avner, who is the general of Shaul's army, does something rather spectacular and rather amazing. And if you don't want to know what it is, then don't read on and don't spoil it for yourselves, because we're going to see quite an interesting tactic by Avner, the general of Shaul, next week, please God. Next week, with no reason why we shouldn't learn. It's Hanukkah, but no reason. Wait a minute. No, it's not the Teal, is it, next week? That's on a Wednesday. Yes, we can learn next week. No reason why not. Please God. We'll see what happens with Avner, the general of Shaul, next week. Any questions on today's shiur before we go?
It was good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
Excellent.
Okay. We'll see you all next week, please God.
Go ahead.
Shavua tov.
Tov.
Well, that's all. Thank you.